Continuing with the Cold War, we were looking at part one before. Now we're going to move on to part two of the Truman years, basically. It's the election of 1948 in the U.S. The Cold War is now getting started. There are issues going on. Meanwhile, we're going to have our election, 1948. You look at it, President Truman, he starts out with real high popularity. Of course, he's in the middle, it's the end of World War II. High ratings for dropping the bombs on Japan and ending the war. And so he's got these really high popularity ratings. However, by the time you get to 1946, you have the increase in inflation, unemployment is rising. So his popularity drops dramatically over the course of his first term. However, the Democrats nominate him for his own term. Remember, he's finishing FDR's term from 1944. So in 1948, Harry Truman is nominated for his own term. The Republicans nominate Thomas Dewey. There's a third-party candidate, and his name is Strom Thurmond. He's nominated by the States' Rights Party. Strom Thurmond is one of the oldest-serving members of the Senate. He started in the 40s and was still in the Senate when he died, which was somewhere around 2000, 2001 at the latest, I would say. Right? That's them. That is Truman on the left, Dewey in the middle, and Strom Thurmond on the right. The Progressive Party is also involved, and they nominate Henry Wallace. That's Henry Wallace. The pollsters in this one, going through the polls, predicted that Dewey was going to defeat Truman. However, that poll came out in September. Truman spent the rest of September, October, and November campaigning very hard, traveled the country, gave a lot of speeches. Dewey kind of took it easy, didn't really do a lot of speeches, and when it came out, Truman wins. And that's President Truman holding up the Chicago Daily Tribune. It's a very famous picture. Dewey defeats Truman. They were predicting Dewey to win, and Truman ends up winning the presidency. The Electoral College was 303 to 189 over Dewey. Pretty high, but not necessarily a landslide. You have 39 electoral votes going to Strom Thurmond, one of the few times you get a third-party candidate winning electoral votes. The popular vote was close. Truman wins by a little over 2 million popular votes. The average for the 20th century was 5 to 7 million. 1.1 million go to Henry Wallace. To Strom Thurmond. There's the Electoral College. The blue states are Truman, the red states are Dewey, and the gold states are the States' Rights Party that voted for Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond, by the way, is from South Carolina. So as you look at U.S. foreign policy, it becomes based on the idea of containment. The idea of containment was to keep communism where it already was, contain it, and then keep it from spreading. All right? The guy that suggested that theory, that policy, was George Kennan, one of Truman's advisors. That's George Kennan. His idea was that if you left it where it already existed, don't fight a war, you don't have to attack it, the communist system was so bad that it would eventually fall apart. And that was Kennan's idea. And so that's what he was advocating. Hey, just keep it from spreading. Let it fall apart on its own. You don't have to worry about losing any lives or fighting a costly war. It eventually becomes known as the Truman Doctrine because President Truman was the first one to apply that policy. And the first time he uses it, Greece was fighting a civil war. There were communist rebels trying to overthrow the government. Turkey, which of course wasn't in World War II, borders the Soviet Union, and it looked like the Soviets might try to help a communist government take hold in Turkey, and so he sends money and weapons to help Greece and Turkey. He outlines containment in a speech, and that's where we get the idea of the Truman Doctrine. And the main part of that speech right there, he said, it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures. And when you translate that into normal English, he said it has to be the U.S. policy. We're going to help anybody that's free, anybody that's non-communist, who are resisting groups that are trying to take over, whether it's by an armed minority, meaning rebels, or by outside pressures, which means an invasion by another country.